RFK Jr. went on CNN State of the Union and absolutely decimates Dana Bash. Let's get into it. We're going to watch the whole thing right here and pick it apart.
You have been placing nearly all the blame on the COVID pandemic and the way that the U.S. responded to it squarely with Dr. Fauci. But of course, he worked for President Trump. Does President Trump also deserve some of the blame?
Well, President Trump, as you recall, wanted to end the lockdowns. I think the thing that did the most damage to our country was the lockdowns that shut down 3.5 million businesses in our country with no due process, no just compensation. All of our churches closed our schools, and our children are still paying the price for that. And yet we had the worst outcome of any country in the world.
How so?
We have the highest death rate from COVID of any nation on earth.
Well, let me just say, because I've heard you say that before on the death rate from COVID. That's not accurate because public health experts say that there is a combination of factors.
Public health experts say
higher rates of chronic illnesses, which I know you would agree with, gaps to our healthcare system, and misinformation about vaccines.
Gaps to our healthcare system. What does that even mean?
It was inaccurate. What I said was accurate. We had the highest death rate from COVID of any place.
There are other countries that had higher, but
you can argue
go ahead
about why we had that, but nobody can tell you. I mean, we have, as you say, we have the highest chronic disease burden in the world. But Anthony Fauci was mismanaging the COVID pandemic, and he was doing it under the Biden administration. President Trump wanted to end the lockdowns. And in fact, in Anthony Fauci's diaries, he talks about how President Trump is calling him every day, trying to get him to reopen the country.
Yeah, well, the lockdowns were done by governors. I mean, certainly Anthony Fauci and the president had opinions, but the lockdowns were done by governors, and largely because they were hearing from hospitals saying that their ICUs were overrun and they needed some help while that was happening.
She should blink more. I think blinking more will make her more truthful. She should definitely just continue to fucking blink more.
Not true. What you're saying is not true. No, they were doing it because Anthony Fauci was telling them from the top, you need to lock down. There were ICUs that were empty all over the country, including in New York at the height.
I'm asking you, I'm going to go back to what I asked you at the beginning, which is President Trump. And he was the guy in charge. And you tweeted back in 2024 that he let bureaucrats like Anthony Fauci shut down the entire country. Again, the president was in charge.
The president was trying to reopen the country when he left. The country was staying.
Okay, yes, the president was in charge, but when did CNN put anything about the president on the news? If he was in charge, then why the fuck was Dr. Fauci telling us everything? And why the fuck were you only showing what Dr. Fauci was saying?
Was kept closed for another year, almost a year and a half after that.
Let's talk about how to prevent the next pandemic, because there's a lot of
I know how to prevent the next pandemic. You fucking hang Fauci. You fucking hang Bill Gates. You fucking hang anybody in the committee that had anything to do with COVID-19. That is the only way you're going to prevent the next scamdemic.
That I don't think is really.
And how Fauci with the headlines, but nobody talking about Bill Gates, the literal money bank behind Fauci.
Helpful to do with regard to COVID. And the question is about so-called gain of function, which for people who aren't entirely clear about it, it is a highly risky research process that includes manipulating a virus to study how it behaves as it evolves. Now, what scientists say is that although it's controversial, it's necessary to prepare.
Gain of function research is a military ran program to create bioweapons, which supposedly there's a treaty against bioweapons. But since like the Soviet Union went ahead and did away with it, America's just like, we can make them.
For the next pandemic, to get ahead of it, to figure out what these viruses can do. You want to end this gain of function research. Some scientists say, isn't it better just to put better guardrails around it?
People have been trying to put guardrails around it for generations, and it hasn't worked. And clearly, COVID-19 pandemic and many other global pandemics that we have come from gain of function research. The RSV epidemic that we have, that is the biggest killer of kids in this country today, came from these kind of experiments. The Lyme disease almost certainly came from this kind of research. So, and the scientists who you say are experts are making the argument that this is necessary for pandemic response, cannot point to one instance in history where research that came out of this kind of experimentation has actually provided us something beneficial.
So how do you prepare then? How do you prepare for the next pandemic? I mean, that's literally
let him
part of your
fucking
job now,
talk.
because experts think it's going to happen within the next 10 years again.
Yeah, I mean, I think we did virtually everything wrong the last time.
So what about now?
The principal thing that we need to do is we need to listen to what's happening to doctors on the ground. There are 15 million frontline physicians around the world. They're mainly now connected through the internet. We can tell on the front lines what's working and what's not. If we had listened to those doctors during the COVID pandemic, we would have saved potentially millions of lives. There were therapeutics out there that were working. There were doctors that were having no deaths from COVID and treating, in some cases, thousands of patients. And we weren't listening to them. Instead, we were doing the opposite. We were shutting them down. And then, Dana, the other thing that I would say is that we need to protect our constitutional rights. That is the primary obligation of our country. What does that mean? Well, during COVID, we completely dismantled our constitutional rights. We began censoring people in violation of the First Amendment.
But you're saying what not to do. I'm asking what to do. But I want to talk.
Are you fucking kidding me? Wow. Robert F. Kennedy has the patience of a saint.
Well, that's something to do. That is the number one priority. We protect the Constitution. The Constitution was written.
Forgive me, but you're talking about rights, and I'm asking about a potential public health crisis.
You're talking about rights. This is CNN, Robert.
That is coming. But I do want to
And one of the mistakes we made in the last time was suppressing those rights so people weren't being heard. The doctors who were saying you're doing it wrong were being marginalized and vilified.
Yeah,
and
because again, I really want to move on. But
yeah,
you were saying yes,
you were part of the problem.
No, I wasn't part of the problem.
There was absolute press malpractice. You weren't allowing your
Mr. Secretary,
your job is a fierce skepticism toward authority. And
yes,
you weren't doing that. You were beating up
My
on
job is
people
also,
who were dissenting.
No. Okay, you want to sit here and attack me, or do you want to have conversations about public health?
Me.
I'm not attacking you. I'm asking questions about how to prevent the next pandemic.
Question, and I'll tell you.
That's what I'm trying to do. But I also don't want to use this interview to allow you to say things that aren't entirely true. You're talking about.
I have to replay that.
Yes,
you weren't doing that. You were beating
My
up
job
on people
is also,
who were dissenting.
No. Okay, you want to sit here and attack me, or do you want to have conversations about public health?
Me.
I'm not attacking you. I'm asking questions about how to prevent the next pandemic.
Question, and I'll tell you.
That's what I'm trying to do. But I also don't want to use this interview to allow you to say things that aren't entirely true.
She doesn't want him to say things on CNN that aren't entirely true. Is that not the entire business model of CNN? the gaslighting. Like, does she truly believe this shit? Are people really living in polar opposite realities? I don't think so. I don't think that there's this big of a polarization in it. I think that this lady works for the deep state and the big pharmaceutical industry to do this, to discredit Robert F. Kennedy and, oh, you're not a scientist, and Dr. Fauci and blah, 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 blah. But to play victim and say he's attacking her and shit, like, fuck you.
Talking about therapeutics, fine. It is also factually true that the COVID vaccine worked. The COVID vaccine prevented deaths. There is data upon data.
There is no, you cannot prove that. You cannot say that this vaccine saved lives. You can't. That you cannot study something like that. You can't say, oh, this person didn't die because they did this. That's not how science works. You want to talk about fucking science, lady? Stop bringing up shit that is not scientific.
Data. Let's talk about the measles, please, because this is something that is happening.
Let's skip to measles now. I'm losing the argument here on COVID, so let's skip to something completely on the other side of the spectrum here.
As we speak, the
You think
cases
the
in the
COVID
U.S.
vaccine protected children?
I think that what I have talked to scientists and doctors
You've talked
about.
to scientists. Can you show me one study
Yes, I can.
that shows that
I can.
children were protected by the COVID vaccine?
She
I can tell you that
rifles
there
through the
are-
papers.
Did more good than harm to children. Can you show me one study that shows that?
I can tell you that when it comes to the vaccine, there have been studies that show that because of vaccine
What study?
disinformation, there could have been 100 to 200,000 lives in the U.S. saved. But
What?
Because people
Sorry, I gotta replay this. What is she claiming?
that because of vaccine
What study?
disinformation,
Because of vaccine disinformation,
there could have been 100 to 200,000 lives in the
there
U.S.
could have been 100 to 200,000 lives saved in the U.S. How can you? She just said she talked to scientists and doctors, and that's what they're claiming. How can you claim something that is not scientific? You cannot collect that data. You can't prove. Once again, you can't prove that something saved somebody's life.
saved, but because people didn't get the vaccine, that's why. I'm not saying that it entirely.
You
let
are
me finish.
saying
Let me
nonsense.
finish.
You are saying something that you cannot show me
Okay.
a single study.
I am
that
not
says
saying
that.
nonsense.
You
I
are
am
talking what
Excuse
somebody
me.
told you.
Excuse me.
And you
Let me
cite me the study.
What
study?
No, what
Cite
studies
me
are
the
you
study.
talking about? You're talking
He
about
asked you, lady. You said that you could pull up a study.
studies that actually don't exist. I want to talk about.
Cite me the
I am
study
not-
that you're talking about.
I am
you
not
say
here
you've
to
seen
defend-
studies. Cite me the study.
This is not productive. I am not here to defend all of the.
You're,
Let me
you're
finish.
talking nonsense.
Let
You're
me
making
finish.
assertions you can't support, and then when I call you on them, you're telling me that I'm arguing.
Okay,
with
do you want to talk about assertions that you can't support? I'll get there in a second. Let me just say, for the record, that I am not saying that the entire way that the COVID reaction was accurate. It was a scary time, and people made mistakes. Absolutely.
You
Let
were
me finish.
scaring people
Why are you saying that?
because that was the job of CNN.
Okay.
Was to put
okay,
the
stop.
chyrons up
Okay,
about how
stop.
many people are
We
dying.
were trying to
To get people
we were
to
listening
comply.
to the leaders in this country, including the president, who had a daily press conference explaining what was going on and trying to listen.
Were you listening?
I want to
the
talk to
scientists,
measles.
Actually, were you reading the,
The
science
measles,
yourself?
the measles cases in the U.S. just reached a 35-year high. The second record-breaking year in a row, 93% of these cases are among the unvaccinated. The outbreak is happening on your watch, and even before becoming HIV.
I want to pause and look at this graph because they like to finagle with the graphs here. Source, CDC. Oh, that's a trustworthy source. What are they showing? As of July. Okay.
Before becoming HHS secretary, for years, you have been one of the leading voices questioning the efficacy of vaccines. Do you accept some responsibility for this measles outbreak?
Absolutely not. First of all, this is an international outbreak. So, and we're doing better at handling it than any country in the world. Mexico has 15 times the amount of measles per capita that we have. Canada has 4 times the amount of measles. England has 2 times the amount of measles. Did I cause those measles outbreaks?
You're the most famous.
Did I cause 137,000 cases?
You're the most famous vaccine skeptic on the planet.
Let me tell you, because actually Anthony Fauci in his diaries answers the question about why we're having a measles outbreak right now. The reason we're having a measles outbreak because of the COVID lockdowns, because people children during that period did not get vaccinated. And in his diaries, he says this is going to cause massive outbreaks of measles and more children. He says this are going to die. Let me finish, because you could accuse me of something. Now, let me.
No, I didn't. I asked you a question.
You fucking did too accuse him. You just said he's the biggest vaccine skeptic, and you're at fault for this 35-year high of measles.
Let me give you the answer. He says in his diaries, more children are going to die from measles because of these lockdowns than COVID. So if you want to know, and that age group that should have gotten the MMR when they were 18 months and didn't get it, they're the ones being infected. The people in this country, and we have stopped the outbreaks at record speed in South Carolina, in Texas, in Utah.
And I'm going to pause because this actually pisses me off, and I know a lot of the Maha moms will be pissed off about this too, because the Maha moms, which are most of the mothers that have had vaccine-injured children from the 18-month measles MMR vaccine, they point at that one, and to watch RFK like defend it this much like really pisses me off, but that's for another podcast.
In Virginia, we've done better than any country in the world. I dispatch immediately the epidemic intelligence services to those states. I get on the phone with the governor and we stop them in their tracks. Nobody else has been able to do that.
You have a bully pulpit.
Let me tell you just one last thing.
Go ahead.
The communities that are suffering from measles are almost all religious communities that just don't vaccinate. The Mennonites have not vaccinated since 1796, since Edward Jenner invented the smallpox vaccine. It's hard to blame that on me as much as you want to blame it.
No, I don't want to blame you. I'm asking you because you have a very powerful voice on these issues for people who are skeptical. Let me finish. Let me finish.
And I've never questioned the efficacy of the MMR vaccine.
Okay, let me finish.
What
I want you to do is please use your bully pulpit to.
Yeah, that angers me because I could tell that he was about to let it go. He never questioned the efficacy of the MMR vaccine. Let's say it works for measles, mumps, rubella. But what he would have really wanted to say is that even in the efficacy of it, it might have detrimental side effects like autism, and we don't know. One thing that I really want to talk about is they use autism as like a catch-all. And I think Big Pharma yes, there are cases of autism being caused and they want to detract from that. But I think they're ultimately using that as a structure, right? They're taking autism and saying that that's the only thing that you can get as a side effect from vaccines. We don't know what other diseases are caused by the childhood vaccines because we've never looked into it. They've looked into like one chemical and just to see if it lines up with autism. They haven't checked it to see if it lines up with MS or cancer or rheumatoid arthritis 50 years down the road. They don't even, like, when you go to the doctor and you're diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, they're not going to go back to your childhood vaccine schedule and be like, oh, well, there are studies that show that if you got this one back in 1980 or whatever, when they had got rid of the fucking blah 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 chemical in it, you know, or whatever. Like, there's no way of tracking any of this, and they wonder why people don't want to fucking inject their kids with this shit.
Very powerful voice on these issues for people who are skeptical. Let me finish.
And I've never questioned the efficacy of the MMR vaccine.
Okay, let me finish.
What
I want you to do is please use your bully pulpit to right now, as we're getting close to back to school, are you willing to say to parents who have not vaccinated their kids that they should vaccinate their kids for measles because it is safe and it will help them save their children's lives?
We tell people on my websites, my public
right now,
I'll
look
say
into the
right
camera
now that parents should get their children vaccinated for measles. A measles vaccine is effective. It stops measles in about 97% of the cases. But people should get vaccinated.
Can I ask you, the Wall Street Journal reported that the president is pressuring you to conduct studies probing the link between vaccines and autism. Is that true?
Did you say probing the link?
I'm just quoting the Wall Street Journal, that the president wants you to go further to probe the link between autism and vaccines.
He certainly does.
Okay. Now, have you talked to him about medical research that have studied this for 25 years and found no link between autism and vaccines? And just this is my question here, because I don't want to litigate that. My question is, why not, because you are HHS secretary now, why not study what could cause autism, which scientists do believe starts with fetal brain development? Why not do
it's
some studies
Tylenol,
on
and
that,
you guys had a
whether
problem
there's
with that.
an environmental lawyer, whether there are environmental factors that go into contributing to a predisposed genetic situation?
Well,
this is what I'm saying. Like, you see how they use autism as I'm sure he's going to go into it about, there's like 40 studies of like Tylenol in being a contributor to autism when mothers take it in like the third trimester or whatever. Let's see if he talks about it.
That's first.
But I'll just let it play.
We're doing all those things. And that's one of the ways that we found Tylenol. There's 73 studies out
73.
There and linked Tylenol exposure during later pregnancy and during the perinatal period to autism onset. But you are wrong when you say that this issue has been studied. It has been studied, and you're rolling your eyes, Dana. But
I am, because I don't want to have you use our air to say this. There have been more than 40 studies involving 5.6 million people to conclude there is no link between vaccines and autism. This is the head of the Committee of
this is the perfect example. There's been this many studies because there's no link between vaccines and autism. Okay, well, what about any of the other hundreds of diseases that we Americans suffer from?
American Academy of Pediatrics.
And now let me tell you what the Institute of Medicine says, which is the National Academy of Sciences, which is the ultimate arbiter on vaccine safety, and which it does not have an interest in this debate. It says that none of the 8 vaccines that are administered during the first 6 months of life have ever been studied for a relationship to autism. It found 2 studies, one on the DTP vaccine that showed that it does cause autism, and one on the hepatitis B vaccine that again suggests that it does cause autism. The Institute of Medicine dismissed those 2 studies because they were based on CDC's database. The studies that you're referring to are all for one vaccine, the MMR vaccine, or one ingredient, thimerosal.
So you are actually looking at, you're starting new studies to try to link autism, but you're also
I'm
telling
not
me.
trying to link autism to anything. I'm trying to find out why has autism gone
Are you
from
also
less
trying?
than why
Are you
has
also trying to
autism
find
gone-
out how it interacts with people's DNA? What's predisposed to have an autistic child? Are you doing both?
Yeah, but Dana, you probably don't
I hate
understand
that
this
these
because-
fucking interviewers are like they go through they must go through like a school of like how to just sit there and fluster people and take the topic and fucking juggle it around in the interviewee's head.
You're not a scientist, but genes
you're not
don't
either.
cause genes don't cause epidemics.
I understand genes.
They can provide a
Epidemics.
vulnerability.
A
but they, but you
gene
need
provides
an environmental.
That's what I'm asking. Are you studying the environmental
We're looking
exposure?
at all the different environmental exposures, but your statement, you have been fooled. Your statement that this has been studied is not true. It's categorically
It is
not
considered.
true. Not for any of this stuff.
It is considered.
Considered by
decided-
who?
By every scientist who has studied this.
That is not true. I can
is
give you
true.
hundreds of scientists who have looked at this.
So
and
on the
say,
one
why
hand,
is it-
do you understand
It's
why
the
people aren't
National
getting?
Academy of Sciences. What greater authority
Do you
have
understand
than
why
that?
people are not getting measles vaccines? Because they're hearing you say that it could
You're
cause
trying
autism.
to change the subject.
I'm not. It's very much
Yeah, you are.
related.
Show me one of the studies
Oh,
that's
my
been done
God.
on the first 8 the vaccines during the first 6 months of life. You will not find them. The National Academy of Sciences
So
say
if that's
they
the
do not
case, then why are
exist.
you telling people to get the
people,
measles vaccine?
because that is one of the vaccines that has been studied.
Okay.
It's the only one that has been studied.
Do you want people to get the MMR vaccine?
Yeah, I said that already.
Okay. So
I know you're flustered now, and it is.
I don't.
it is
I'm not flustered at
frustrating
all.
because
I am
people have not
frustrated.
been
Oh,
honest.
I thought
reason
you
I'm
weren't.
frustrated
Oh,
is
you're
because
not flustered, but you're frustrated. Isn't that the same fucking
Okay,
thing?
So
I know you're flustered now, and it is.
I don't.
it
I'm
is
not flustered at
frustrating
all.
Because
I am
people have not
frustrated.
been honest
The
with
reason
you.
I'm frustrated is because
you repeat
you
things
are
saying
the
the experts say
HHS.
this.
You are the HHS secretary, and you are talking about things that lead to vaccine hesitancy in this country, and it is something that causes problems for people
Let me
when
ask
there
you-
is not anything.
Let me ask you something. Do you see your job as ending vaccine hesitancy, or do you see your job as telling the truth to the American people?
I see my job as telling the truth, and the truth is that there is study after study after study. It's one of the most studied things out there in science.
You're repeating
and it
it
is
like a
this-
parrot. You're repeating
So are
it
you.
like a parrot.
So
I've
are you.
actually read the science.
You-
Let's you
you
and
don't
I
wanna-
come
you don't
back
wanna-
here and debate the
So you,
science.
I'm not debating this with you.
Of course you won't.
No,
It sounds
because
like you
I'm
are
not-
debating
All you know
it.
how to do is repeat things that people told you and say, trust the experts. That's what you did during COVID. Now we know that Anthony Fauci, who was the expert, was lying about everything, about masks, about social distancing, about natural immunity, about the transmission from the vaccine, about the source of COVID. He was lying, and you were punishing people for not trusting the experts. And now you're rolling out the experts again
Yes.
to talk about something that you have no personal knowledge of.
Okay, well, guess what? That is my job, to talk to people.
Your job is to
Am I
tell the
allowed to
truth
talk?
to the American
Yes,
public.
yes. And my job
And
is
to
to
be-
get as
and
much
to-
information as I
And
can.
to maintain
And what we were doing,
a posture
what we were
of
doing,
fierce skepticism
what we
toward
were
government
doing
authority.
in COVID and still, with regard to these vaccines, is getting the best information, the best science that we can, and putting it out there. And sir, what you are doing is
You are
causing
getting the best
information
science
to
from
be out there
somebody
that
who's
is
lying to
not
you.
accurate.
Who was lying to
Well, we only pick and choose what science we want to bring up, and it has to go along with our donors, Big Pharma and Pfizer.
National Academy of Sciences, which you just cited, in November, said we support the statement that vaccines do not cause autism. This is the National Academy of Sciences that you just talked about.
Look at the National Academy of Science most recent report,
Okay.
and you'll see.
I want to ask you one other question. 'cause it's
Oh my
something that
God, dude.
Really did help Donald Trump get elected, and that is the MAHA movement, and specifically the question of processed foods.
Of what?
And processed foods, and the fact that people want to feel that their food is safe. My understanding is that you're pushing for reforms on food safety and ultra-processed foods that have been slowed, in some cases blocked, by people in the administration who are working on behalf of the industry. Is that true?
No, that is not true.
So you feel that you'll be able to get these reforms done without any problems?
I think the two big reforms that you're probably talking about is ultra-processed food definition
Exactly.
and the GRAS standards.
Yes.
And they've both gone through extensive interagency process. I'm very confident that we will get them both out there within probably a month.
Well, I'm sorry that this, and that's good news for people who are very moms, and I'm one of them, who are very worried about making sure that our kids eat food and we eat food that is healthy. I'm sorry that this turned into a very contentious conversation, and my job is to try to get the best information out there, and it does concern me when you come in and say things that have, I take what you're saying have been people who have scientific backgrounds, and who I know have tried to talk to you as well. Thank you for coming in. Up next, he helped lead the Biden administration's
Fuck you, Dana Bash. Fuck you, Dana Bash. Fuck you, CNN. I'm so over this shit at this point. Stop letting these motherfuckers tell you what to do, what not to do, what to insert into your body, what not to insert into your body. Look, if they want to trust the science, then let's trust the science. You just saw it. The CNN claims that they are the outlet of science, and all of their opinions are based in science, but they won't listen to another side of science. Skepticism is science. So if RFK Jr. is skeptical about something, well, then he represents the skeptical side, the one that's going to push against a theory that another scientist might have. That's how science works. And this was more revealing than I think anything I've seen CNN put out in the recent histories. Absolutely unbelievable. Like and subscribe, please. Thanks for watching.